Well, happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of What's Next. I'm your host, Matthew Quinn. And along with being the season finale, this is going to be our first show where we are bringing back repeat guests. And I'm very excited about this show. We have Ricky and Dana Young-Howze, known as R&D, who have the record for seeing over 100 shows, 100 live streaming shows this year. We are very lucky to have them in our studio and to discuss what their kind of overall picture, the moment of live streaming 2020. So let's go ahead and bring them in. Hello, Ricky and Dana.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. You guys are calling us from New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, wonderful. All right. Well, we have spoken several times throughout the year, getting updates along the way. When you sent me the shows you're going to talk about, I saw like 3 or 4 of them. So I'm really excited to dive in here and get some of your thoughts about all of these wonderful shows. Are you ready to jump in?
Yep, we're ready.
All right, let's bring it in. So the first piece, and I've got my wonderful That's right. First piece we're going to talk about, and that will disappear shortly. I'm Your Hamlet by Genevieve Yasko at the Hartford Fringe. So why is this on your list for this year?
Well, it's on our list because it brought, it fully encompasses this thing we've been feeling both with fringes and small independent theater companies. Genevieve Yasko works with Sour Grapes. Well, she's the owner of Sour Grapes Productions with her partner, Chris. And Chris and them are both in this. She wrote this over 8 hours. This was also the spirit of this was a show that failed because of COVID. It had to be canceled.
It had to be revamped.
It had to be
for
revamped.
the new medium.
Revamped, rewritten for Zoom. It was shot in a whirlwind. Every time I hear them talking about it, it was just like crazy how much this was shot. And it went on the Hartford Fringe. Not only did it go on Hartford Fringe, it won the pick of the Fringe.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that is built upon a small theater. Well, I say small theater. Frigid New York doesn't feel small to us, but it started at Frigid New York and then was able to move on to other festivals and fringes and get a lot of things going. Jenny is definitely one of the hardest working people in digital theater right now. Not only is she producing and creating her own work, she's a screen manager, and I think screen managers are the backbone of this year.
They are the guardian angels of this year. Anyone who's done a digital production knows the screen manager didn't exist February 2020, exists now, and all of them deserve the Nobel Peace Prize for keeping us together.
I agree. And in fact, I'm going to take this moment to give a shout out to my stream manager for this show, as well as for Tilted Frame. There's the Miles Berman working behind the scenes, making everything happen. Yes, God bless the stream managers, the new stage managers for the 2020 season. And I also, along with singing their praises, a point out to the wonderful online fringes that are allowing a lot of these pieces to extend beyond their original track, their original plan. And those are also, so maybe as this goes on, I know a lot of these came from fringes. We can talk a little bit more about how fringes keep going. So this, how early, do you remember how early this came out? Because
this was Hartford Fringe, so it was September-ish.
But it was created before that. I think it was like 2 or 3 months into the pandemic. Yeah. She literally had this idea, and then not only did she revamp it, one of the cooler things she did is she used the private room feature of Zoom as
incorporated as part of the show. As part of the plot, people go off to the side rooms.
And asked her as the director, hey, why am I not playing Hamlet? And that's the whole plot about, a director trying to make a show work with a bunch of people just not acting right. And that just felt so poignant. And because she has so many hats in theater, Jenny really understood kind of how to play each part and write each part to fit.
Yeah.
And two of the things that are really important about the shows, it not only talks about the online fringes, which have kept digital theater running, everything about that. This is one of the first shows that became a franchise. Mm-hmm. Not only you see this show, they did a live show of I'm Your Hamlet Reads Hamlet, where people could donate money to the actors, and they would either have to take a shot or do a weird thing or have a fight or something like that. It ended up with Jenny drinking way too much booze.
But they hilarious.
But they divvied it up amongst the actors, and they paid each of them equally. And that is like the spirit of 2020 right there. There's also going to be sequels to this. There's going to be a Midsummer Night's Dream about this and another sequel, I think, in the works. Just go to Rotten Tomatoes production.
Sour Grapes.
Sour Grapes Productions.
You'll be okay.
Sour Grapes Productions, and you'll learn everything about this. This was like the spirit of these small production teams
who pay their actors.
And work with their actors, and that's great.
I agree with you 100%. All right. Well, it looks fun. I love this is like a Zoom interface, but chat and breakout rooms are kind of part of what makes this sort of unique. And then wonderfully, the story about Genevieve. I mean, I do think the stream masters, I mean, speaking of Miles again, he's directed several pieces. these people that work in it on whatever level are the ones that are becoming somewhat of the artistic creativeness of this, because they understand how to use this.
Yes.
All right, let's go to the next show. Let's see if this one. Butterfly Precinct by Shaw Cage, Black Lives. And this was in Black Words. Was that a show?
No, it's Black Lives,
Black Words. Black Lives, Black Words is a beautiful organization run by I always forget Reggie's last name. I apologize. It's our friend Reggie.
Reginald Edmond is his full name.
Yeah, Reginald Edmond. He started this thing called Black Lives, Black Words, and he wanted to highlight Black writers, actors throughout all of 2020. He actually started really early in the pandemic and ran shows till just last month, so till November, and he's continuing that come the new year. And why we picked this is an example of how BIPOC shows have actually gotten wings with this pandemic. As much as it sucks, and there's so many terrible things going on, and we'll never ignore or downplay that, it also kind of made it so that if you wanted to create theater and experiment with theater and do things that you couldn't before, you could now, because we all have access to Zoom. Zoom is a free or cheap for the most part. And everyone from, like, I always say, everyone from Nickelodeon and Disney to us in our house has access to Zoom or StreamYard and stuff like that. And so you're able to create really beautiful work on very little budget. And so you can experiment, you can try those new things. And so one of the great things about Reggie's work is that he actually cultivates a group of artists around him. And so this was one of the many plays we saw. And this was a beautiful play. They used music and spoken word. And it was just to talk about, you know, how this play talked about police violence, but it also talked about how do you deal with police violence when you are a Black person who's also a police officer, and those many layers and complications. So it was such a beautiful work.
Cool. Did you, as a general comment, did you see over the course, and just to, you know, reiterate, you've seen over 100 shows since March, April? Was that kind of starting point? And then with George Floyd's murder in June, did you start to see, was there some flux of BLM pieces, people of color pieces, BIPOC? What did you say that event and kind of what the work you saw, or was it already being explored? Because like you said, the internet and Zoom is so approachable.
It was both. It was a really interesting combo, because you did have Black artists immediately jumping on this form, because once again, there weren't those gatekeepers. No one was stopping them.
Right.
But then you also saw work that was speaking to this. There's something called the Breath Project. And if you look them up, they do a lot. They have this whole series of plays that are about 8 minutes long, the amount of time, you know, George Floyd was dying. And they're beautiful. They're each unique, but they're based in that time frame. And it spoke very much about this moment and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that stuff happening. And we did see like this emergence of works that, even if they weren't directly about these incidences, were influenced by the feelings and the emotion and the scariness that a lot of people felt right now. So yeah, we saw, you know, you saw a bunch of things that were just, oh, this is Black people speaking out because they can now and have more opportunities to just try something, which is great about Zoom. But then you also saw, okay, we have this platform, what do we do with it? And so it was beautiful.
Well, and I'm hoping to see more of that work, from seeing diverse voices. I'm going to be getting Maria Cisco back on. She wrote that controversial list of having theater companies kind of do it. And to touch base, how are things moving? It's one thing to talk about it, but we need to keep acting on it. So this is great. Butterfly Precinct sounds wonderful. New pieces, I'm sure, like you said, coming up. So we'll keep an eye out for those. All right, next, Killjoy Ohio by Queen City Flash. and this came from Minnesota and Cincy. Did I mistype something?
No,
we
that's
messed up. It's the wrong picture. This is
Macbeth number 6.
We've confused the pictures, and that's our fault.
No worries. You can make changes as you're doing it. Go ahead and keep talking.
So this is actually the picture that came up was Macbeth number 6, and that is from our friends at
Osotros in Brazil.
They did Art of Facing Fear. You met them. They're amazing.
Yes, of course,
they're wonderful. And what was we love them so much. What was really cool, and one of the things that we've kind of like, hung our hats on, is that digital theater and Zoom theater and theater in this moment is global now. We now have global theater to talk about and to do and to see, and we've connected with people from Brazil, Africa, Europe, Australia. That was another Fringe. We went to the Melbourne Fringe as press and got to see quite a few shows and connect with artists in that arena. And so we actually say it's like post geography, where we're not you're not stuck. So for lack of a better word, you're not stuck in one place. You can go around the world and see as many shows as you want to, because they're open to us now. And so Macbeth number 6, do you want to describe it? Because
Macbeth number 6 was a collaboration between Osotros and the Birmingham Conservatoire. I know I'm mispronouncing that. We'll get you the correct link, but if you follow the link that we gave you in a list, it'll definitely give you to the right one. They had been working on Macbeth 1 through 5, I believe, before the pandemic happened, and then they wondered how they were going to finish this one. Well, they decided, because Osotros did Art of Facing Fear, they did New Normal, all these shows that we really, really loved
and connected
with, they were able to work with the group and find out ways to show the way the witches were in like these big, wonderful images, and they used video montages, and they used sound, and they just found out ways to make things work. They found out ways to make things work, but also keep everything going.
Yeah.
So it's not only just the tribute to how Zoom theater with multimedia works wonderful, but it's also that international level of collaboration, just the way Dana said it.
Yeah, one of the things we notice with theater, it's kind of outside the Western mindset, is even if it's in a different language, the art is more about how it feels than what it's literally saying. And so there's sometimes in Macbeth number 6 where you would just see like multiple women washing their hands, and it was to show that extreme stress, and it split Lady Macbeth into multiple people, and so it kind of showed different women reacting in the same way, and it just layered on that meaning. So it was beautiful.
Yeah, I love their work. I mean, you see it here, even though they're Zoom, they really their set design. It's almost like set production design in each frame. That combination of makeup, lighting, costume, background. They explore it with this wonderful Brazilian, or their aesthetic. I don't even want to make it Brazilian, just whatever their company, Osotros, is aesthetic. And they really are pushing that level of, even though being trapped in Zoom, to really bring out the artistic design team in their shows.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Art of Fear, and I agree, like the international element of this is so much fun, so important. And through that, I worked with them briefly on that project. And my main interest was because they had taken the show to the US, to Africa, to Europe. And that connection was really special during these times. So yeah, a big hands off to Osotros and Rodolfo and the whole team. Was this Rodolfo or was this another director?
No, I think it was Rodolfo. It could have been someone else. I do know 2 directors worked on it. I know they had a British director and they had the Brazilian director. Yeah, and just means that geography is slowly dying with the digital theater.
Yes, somebody just said geography is history.
Yeah.
Yep.
although time zones are still very important. And speaking of time zones and time, one of the things, and you brought up a little bit earlier, is a list of the links of shows and being able to see these shows at different times. So I know as we're going through this list, I'm like, can I see this? Will I see this? You have sent me a list of the links of all these shows. It is in the comments section of YouTube and Facebook. And those links, if people want to, if one of these shows talks to them, they can click on that link and go check out if the show's still showing or find out more work from these artists. Is that correct?
Yep.
Absolutely. We want to make sure people, the biggest thing that's been our flag that we wave is that we want people to connect. We're always about people connecting with each other, audiences and performers, audience and creative and artists, but also other artists to each other. And so definitely go to their websites, check them out, see what they're up to, because even if you miss a particular show, you can see so much more of their work that encapsulates everything they're doing.
Yep.
And that's one thing we're about to go to the next one, but everybody's experimenting and making new ideas every week. So it makes sense to pays to follow up on it. All right. So our next tech show by Brian Feldman. And this is another Fringe show on the Minnesota and Melbourne Fringe.
Yeah, we love him. We at first were a bit confused because we're like, wait, what's going on? Because there's no story. There's
absolutely no story.
There's no story. What it is you literally go into the chat of Zoom and you write down things and send it to him, and he has to say them exactly how you wrote them, which means the show can go from any direction. It can be as crazy as you want. And he also, we saw it one time and he hadn't incorporated movement and stage directions, but then the new one he did, and he added stage directions, and he was, if you put in parentheses, he would move like that, or he would have to do a specific movement. And it's very neo-futurist, it's very experimental. It's it's one, he does a lot of devising and sort of live improv shows, I want to call them, because it's not really improv, it's like it's improvised and devised in front of you. So you're seeing him using what you're giving him to give something back. And
it basically pushed the same way a lot of Zoom shows, same way we talked about Macbeth #6, pushing Zoom in a different way. This one pushed Zoom in the way of the community of the audience, not just as audience, but collaborators. He asked audience members to keep their video on and their sound on so you could hear the actors, the audience who now become actors and collaborators. You can hear them talking and reacting to this in real time.
So yeah, I forgot how many performances he did of this, but he traveled all around the globe. I don't know if he's going to bring it back. We hope he does, but definitely follow him. He also did a Hanukkah show this past few days, and that was really good. So he's definitely one to watch, because he takes things and does something new and interesting and weird, and it's very devised, it's very unique, it's very organic to what he's doing. And that's another thing, the audience participation in Zoom is unparalleled. It's something that you can do like right on the spot, because they're chatting with you and they're talking with you. Same with StreamYard. Like, as people are leaving you comments, you can tell us what they're saying and we can answer them. And that connectivity has been key to what we're doing right now.
I mean, wouldn't you say, and this has come up on the show a few times, that interaction is really what's separating this from TV?
Yes.
That the
100%.
fact that you can write, be it a comment or your image or whatever you're doing, if there is some interaction that could affect the script, may not affect the script. Some of it's like immersive theater, but some of it is just being able to watch the show and shout out a comment.
Yes.
And so this show sounds like he's kind of pushing that envelope in how do you play with interaction.
Exactly. He always does more and more with it every time, and so it's a lot of fun.
I love that. I mean, I love it that people are keep organically changing this and playing with it. That's great. All right. Well, moving along, these are all on my list.
Oh,
Breakneck Hamlet by Timothy Mooney.
we love Timothy Mooney. You'll hear us say we love a lot. He is amazing. He's what we call, is it the audacity?
Insanity.
Oh, the insanity. What we noticed was as the pandemic hit, there were these creative people who were like, okay, I need to survive. And you can sense it in their work, but it turns out to be some of the best work you see. And so he picked up what he was doing in person and literally transformed it into a Zoom show that he does on Facebook Live. Usually he has like a show
It's
a week.
every Sunday or
Sunday and Monday usually,
I believe
and
so,
like
yeah.
it's a different show every time. It's Breakneck Hamlet, it's Moliere Than Thou, it's his one man show about the apocalypse. I
Yeah.
forget the name of that one.
He has gone through his entire repertoire that he would be using as his touring into fringes, colleges, things like that. And to replace the income he lost, he literally is on Facebook Live every week. He's always performing. He keeps the order mixed up. He performs a different thing each time, and he has that donate button right there. And I've seen people donate to him. I've seen people who miss his shows, his community of fans, comment on him. I remember him from SCTC, Southeastern Theater Conference. I saw his show. I have his copy of Moliere's Tartuffe, like with his signature on it.
Oh, wow.
And I just really, really loved him. And then he fell off my radar. And then I saw him coming up on Facebook Live one time. I went, oh no, it's Tim, it's Tim. And we just fell in love again.
Yeah, we reached out to him, and he's so generous with his time and so great with his audience. And his biggest thing is he's like, okay, how do I turn this into a business opportunity? Which is another thing we've noticed now, is that people are like, okay, this sucks, but I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna not just survive, I'm gonna thrive. And he's definitely, like, between donations and selling his merch and staying connected with his audience, has done something very, very important, but also it's also a key into the mind of people who are creating right now. It's like, okay, how do we survive and thrive?
I'm being told here that his other piece was Man Cave.
Yes.
And sounds
he
appropriate.
Has so many.
That's wonderful. And I'm also wondering, in regards to discount fee, I know sometimes critics are in a different boat. You can get invited to shows, but are you aware, are these shows tend to be pay what you can, donations? Are any of them like a set ticket price?
Occasionally you will see a set ticket price, but I don't see much over $15. They really try to keep it reasonable because they understand we're all broke right now. I mean, if you are not broke, congratulations, but a lot of us are. And so they try to do things that are either free, but please donate, or they're pay what you may kind of shows. And when you do that, you invite yourself to a larger audience, and it's easier for us as reviewers to kind of throw it out to people like, hey, you have nothing to lose by watching this.
Exactly.
And if you love it, donate to them, help them out. And one of the greatest things about this movement right now is that the money is going into more performers and artists' pockets than usually the breakdown allows. And so you're able, when you pay what you may, when you pay for a ticket, you know that's being split among the cast, or it's going into the next performance. You know exactly that is going to the people who need it most. And that's been great. So you know if you're paying, like Cincy Fringe, who we'll probably talk about more in a second, they did like $10 tickets. Yeah, you pay the ticket, but if you do $15, the extra $5 immediately goes back into
they don't
the
even
pockets.
take a cut of that $5. They go straight to the artist's pocket.
And I think the thing is, like you said, audiences know this. We are all in this global pandemic. They know artists are struggling. And I think that donation, I think it used to be, don't put out free work, don't put out free work. But in this new pandemic time, people kind of get it, and they see that they're trying to express themselves, but they need money too. All right, I'm getting the magic switch words. So, a fan of all of us, of the whole Fringe world, Desperately Seeking the Exit by Peter Michael Marino, and that was one of my first shows I saw. Let's do a little talk about Peter Michael Marino.
I adore him.
Oh, he's adopted us. I know that much.
He's been part of the reason we've been able to connect with so many other artists. He shouted us out. He told people, like, you need to meet these two. He's how we met you. And
that's how we met.
I basically call him our gateway drug. This is why we had to talk about this show specifically.
Yep.
Is this was one of the first shows we saw. He was our first interview on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of our first shows we saw twice this year.
Yeah.
And we have seen just about everything he's put out, from Show Up Kids, all of that. And just because he started this trend we've seen of solo performers who can work with their directors, a screen manager, these small groups of people, of 3 to 5, who can put something out there and put something out there quick.
It's also a form of art that we call it like kitchen table, where if you feel as though if you bought Peter a beer and sat down across the table with him, you would get the exact same story. And that's essential because it makes you immediately feel connected to him. And you immediately want to hear what he has to say. You feel like you're immediately friends. And that has been so important. But he's another one who we call a bit insane because he not only did this show, he did his show Up Kids, which is lovely. They're actually doing a Latinx version starting in next year, and that's really exciting. And it's the same thing, even though it's for kids. It's basically him talking to the audience, getting them involved, telling his story, and it's just him and the camera. And so you do feel like, okay, this is my friend. I know him immediately. And it's just that, like Ricky said, it's this art form where it's a small team immediately putting something up. And it's quick, but it's clean and it's well done and it's well performed, but it's also so familiar and homey and comfortable when you see shows like this.
Yeah, he, like you, he was one of the first shows I saw, and as you mentioned, he introduced us. He was actually the first interview for this show as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
But he was such a pioneer, and he along the steps of the way, he was the one promoting the importance of the screen manager.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Rehearsals, tech rehearsals, all these elements that people were starting to learn since he was so first one out there. I do know he's working on a new piece.
Yes.
Great, that's starting to percolate. And he really is just an innovator and real inspiration, I think is a good word, of what he's giving artists as you can do this. I did it from my New York City apartment. I can get, Kennedy Center's having him work on a project. He did something for American Theater Wing. All from his apartment, all from doing it. So he's really inspiring of what he's accomplished.
He's a pioneer. I want to almost call him the godfather of digital theater because he really did kind of champion digital theater and what it's capable of.
Absolutely.
And he did it before a lot of us got into it.
And he even did a great satirical, snarky piece about streaming theater, which was fun. So if you want to check that out, hear Peter's thoughts, get some links for him, you can check out our first episode too up on YouTube. So wonderful. All right. Anything else with Peter? I think you hit it great. It's a wonderful piece. All right. Killjoy, Ohio by Queen City Flash. And this was in the Cincy and Minnesota Fringe.
They are epic.
Yes.
They were another one of the Cincinnati Fringe was our third in our show in getting started with this. So we had seen, in our first Fringe. So we had seen 2 shows prior. And then we dove headfirst into Cincinnati Fringe. And this was one of the shows there. Killjoy, Ohio uses every tool in their toolkit to make digital theater. It was recorded, but they did it in one take. So like it might as well be live. They didn't do any edits, just the sound was done outside of Zoom, so you didn't have the sound cutting out, because they have moments where they talk over each other and you definitely want to hear that talking over each other. Trey and Jordan had to create closets. Trey did his in a closet, and Jordan put up like a curtain and some boxes and stuff to make sure the sound was quality.
They shoved light boards and like actual stage lights and water lights into their little tiny closets. If you can ever get a chance to watch this show, I don't know if it's playing at all right now. It went to all the fringes, but you can see Trey walk into his closet and you'll see his setup. And that is so important, because whatever's on that screen looks like pure voodoo magic if you don't know what their setup is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I will actually say my life changed when I saw Trey walk into that closet. It was
so interesting and so different. And like, this picture up now, that's literally Jordan with 2 lighters. Like, that's how much they were able to block out the light and make it work and use lighting and sound. And of course, like, they had, like, Bridget was their director, and she had a third computer. And so she had her Zoom off while she's watching these two, making sure everything goes right. And it just turned out beautifully. It's so unique. And it was a metaphor for kind of how we're all feeling about like the whole world stopped, or we lost so much this year and we're trying to find it back. And it did. It's kind of where we said, you know, as we said already, you use every tool in your toolkit when you're doing digital theater. It's okay to break out the lighting, the green screen, do it all, because you know, whatever you do to try to make this work, because it is a difficult platform. You know, Zoom and StreamYard are great, but they're also kind of, to quote a professor of ours, kind of primitive, where you kind of, you know, it feels like a hammer, and yet you have all this detail work you're trying to do. And so they were able to, using everything in their toolbox, make it work and make it great.
Yep. And it was just, everything you said. I tried to do my 2 cents, and no, you've said everything.
It's just the ingenuity that came up this year. People just got down to work and came up with new solutions to problems.
Oh, and we do have an interview with all 3 of them on our YouTube page, our YouTube channel. They talk about how they did it, their whole process. It is crazy. To hear them talk about the process is a show among itself.
Yeah.
Well, and again, let's take actually this moment to kind of, as we're about halfway through and we're still good on time. All of this, you're seeing all these shows is in part because you've been enthralled by this. You kind of got into all this, but you're looking to write a book and give some awards out, correct? So there's more to all this. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Our book will probably come out the middle of next year, maybe a little later, because as things change, we want to make sure that we're as up to date as possible. But we're writing a book about theater in this moment, because one of the things we don't want lost when all this is over with is how hard people worked to make great theater right now.
Yep.
And so a lot of the times, you know, you see bigger theaters get a hold of the same technology, the same systems, the same techniques, and it's treated like they were the ones who did it first and that they were the pioneers. And we're like, no, we know who the pioneers were. We were there. And so we think it's essential to do that. The other thing is our award show, which we're doing in February next year. We're really excited about that. At first, it started out as we just wanted to kind of give all our friends awards because they deserve it for all the hard work they did.
It was also started before the pandemic happened. We planned to do this for South Jersey because we were kind of like a tri-counties South Jersey blog. And so it was going to be a lot more hokey than what I say than what it actually is turning into. The more we talk about it, the more it's turning sweet.
And so our mission is, one of the things we said is, if we saw you and we reviewed your show, Congratulations, you're a nominee this year. This is the first year we're declaring anybody and everybody we reviewed a nominee. But the second thing is we're going to announce the winners. And it's just because award shows aren't really happening this year. And these people, everybody who's worked on something this year deserves recognition for that. And so we want to take some time and honor the screen managers, honor the actors who were able to channel all those emotions through iPhones and laptops, the people who did whole festivals of shows and how they organize them. And it's so important to just highlight that and make sure that they know they're appreciated, because we appreciate them. And I know a lot of more people do too.
I love it. And I thank you for saying all that. I was going to wait to the end, but I want to put these shows in context and what you guys are doing here. There's a real bigger mission that I applaud. I think there are so many of these shows out there that you guys are really doing a service by watching them all and kind of doing some vetting, and analyzing of what's going on. So thank you both. Thank you. And we'll talk more, but let's continue our journey of a moment in 2020. Feast by Megan Goggerty, and we're back to your wonderful No Theater of Cincinnati.
No Theater, we love you. If you're watching this, we've loved you from the moment we met you. Yes. Everybody there, Andrew, Tammy, Liz, Henry, we're forgetting a ton of people.
Alex,
Zach, Douglas. I met them through you too. I mean, yeah, it's the great meet. Yeah.
Feast is a solo performance on a somewhat staged area that I'm at a loss for words.
Feast was actually a show that was written before times by a professor and now colleague of mine, Megan Goggerty.
Who's amazing.
It was started as a solo performance that Megan Goggerty played the role. And she wanted it produced with No Theater. No Theater liked it. They just did not know how it was going to get done. When this came forward with the election and then the pandemic and everything going on, they went, we think we can do this. They got the right actor, Jennifer Joplin. She lives in an old retrofitted church. So the stage is just a balcony that they had. So they set up a makeshift area where the stage was up above them so that they could keep contact, like limited contact. The crew and the whole staff were underneath them, a floor under, keeping really quiet so they didn't talk about everything. And it was one of the first times we saw lighting design, a set design, a costume design by a big, not regional theater, but an independent theater with everything kind of put together. And this seemed like it was the entire... And they did a whole thing where they actually would ship you boxes that had cookies and stuff.
Figs in it. And so you were when it's about
the mother of Grendel. In Norse mythology.
Not Norse.
Oh shoot.
Beowulf,
yeah.
Anyway, she's telling her story about her heartache, and she's supposed to be inviting you over for dinner. And so the original plot of the show was going to be this long dinner table where it was literally dinner theater while you're talking. But they couldn't do that. So instead they sent out care packages with little cookies and stuff. And so when she says, here, have some, you eat during that moment. And another time where you have crowd interaction and audience participation. But this was one of the first shows that felt so much like shows in the before time. Yes. It was a stage. It was an actress. It was everything, everything was set up beautifully. And so you felt like you were in the seats again. And it was set up in such a way that the camera is us. And that was beautiful.
It's interesting. Maybe you know this. I think they were the group. There were a couple shows I had on that were talking about these amazing programs where they have a real stage, but the lighting designer can be anywhere in the world and can design the lights and stuff. So basically, this was a filmed theater show, even though some of the tech and people were remote.
Yes. Andrew is insane.
Yes.
He's wonderful. He's so smart. He's excellent to talk to. And he's in California doing the lights
That's
for
it.
Cincinnati, and you're like, Andrew, that's crazy.
That's
How are
voodoo.
you doing
Crazy.
that?
That's voodoo magic as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
He hasn't
Exactly.
seen the Cincinnati skyline since the beginning of this year,
Mhm.
but he's done the lighting design for all these shows.
Yeah.
He's done
But-
all of it.
Yeah, he's quite a guy. I really enjoyed talking to both him and Doug. But that blew my mind. All right, so Cincinnati, they're having their next. They're just announcing their next Fringe, which will
Yep.
be online for sure. But
Yes.
depending on where Cincinnati is for opening, it may be a hybrid opening with
Yeah.
Yep.
social distance. So that's really exciting. That's early June. So shout out to all of them.
We'll be
All
there.
right.
Oh.
Local. My homegirl. We both are Koreatown, LA. Christina Wong for Public Office by Christina Wong at eventually CTG. I mean, she ran it up the theater ladder.
Yep.
What a great show. This is one on my list that I saw. Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about it?
One of the things we love about this and why this is an example of this year is a show that started out in her home. And the way she describes it is your home is now your dramaturg. Because if there's dirty dishes, that's part of the story you're telling now. If things are falling apart on the walls, congratulations, that's part of the show. And so she used that and ran the show for quite some time just from her living room.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see that performance of it, and it was
Yes.
beautiful. It was wonderful. And another one where
was.
you feel like you're sitting there talking to her, and you could sit there with like a soda and be like, Christina, tell me everything. And it would be the same story. Well, then fast forward, we wrote a review about her, and she's like, "Oh, you guys were my first review," and we're like, "Oh, that's awesome. We're so glad we could see it and review you." Then she gets to Center Theater Group, and boom, New York Times, LA Times, all these newspapers
Everywhere.
and we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is huge for her. We're so happy for her," and to see it go from she's part of the evolution of digital
Yes.
theater we've seen,
Mhm.
where you see these people who are using the smaller venue of their home to build something that gets bigger. And
Yes.
then when you see Center Theater Group, her show, she took a lot of those elements with her. Some of the signs, some of the posters, her
Interesting.
costume, she made it come alive on the theater. And it's another one where you have a set, you have a stage, and the camera is now the audience sitting in the seats, and so it feels a bit more formal. Like you said, it's a recorded show, it's a recorded stage show. So I would say it's on par with things like Hamilton, where
Yeah.
you have that technology and you're recording, you have the stage, and it looks flawless and it's beautiful. And that hard work she put in the beginning ended here. I also have to give a shout out to the Auntie Sewing Squad, her team of mask sewers and pandemic stuff getters,
Yes.
for lack of smarter phraseology. But they have been going out of their way to send masks and hand sanitizer and other supplies to communities who need it right now. And so definitely check on them, see what they're up to. And if you have things you can donate or skills you can donate, help them. I had to do that. I have
Yeah.
to do that plug.
This was the first thing that was really important for us, that Christina Wong setting the bar for all of us of artist and activism.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's not really a separation anymore. The artists are going to save the world. She's inspired us to do more activism. We were already doing a lot of activism with community organization, getting artists together, but definitely we're hoping that we can do more and even more, because she started the trend, and I think she has something going there.
And I mean, just Christina is a politician, politician, activist, creator, artist, and she has all these many hats. And she's right that politics and performance aren't that different. But where she's different is as a performer, she's funny and heartfelt. And as an activist and a politician, she knows how to reach people and get them involved and be the leader that people need. And so
Yes.
we're hoping, she expands her political career as she grows, that that always stays the same because she's amazing.
I agree. And just quickly before we go on to the next one, because I realize we're viewing this as like artists working on the field and have blown through some of the plot. Christina, the piece is about her actually running for political office.
Yes.
And she actually won with 72 votes. And to your point, Dana, she is coming back. She's got, I just got something that she's running for something else. So a really activist, living her art, putting it out there, a great person. Looking forward to more from Christina Wong. And the director, actually, of Christina Wong's piece also is a performer herself. Let's talk a little bit about Blood Sugar by Diana Wynn.
One, we owe her an apology. We misspelled her name.
You know what? I actually thought I had cleared that, but that's my bad too. I am with you on that. But keep talking. I'll fix it as we talk.
She is epic. We've been saying that a lot. She is a director. She's a performer. And she's actually the reason Christina Wong's show exists, in so much that it would have existed without her in some respects, but she directed it. And she's the one who said, hey, Christina, you can do this show in your house. And Christina was like, I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to do it in my house. And Diana was like, okay, fine. I'll do my show and show you, and then you can decide. And then we actually saw Christina's shows first, then Diane's. And Diana did something really important. She talked about not just the pandemic that's going on right now, but the pandemic of diabetes and how it's affecting people, and how she has type 1 and she wasn't diagnosed till she was in her 20s, and how it affects her. And so this play is this beautiful descent into madness coupled with facts and figures and information. So you're getting educated, you're learning more about this disease and this horrifying disability as you're being entertained. And she's reading Shakespeare and she's going through the motions. And like at one point, she literally tests her blood sugar on camera, and you're seeing it. And so the results are her actual blood sugar in that moment. And so you're feeling for her. You're like, oh my God, her blood sugar's high. Is she okay? And so she has to give herself insulin while you're watching this show. And this is just another show where the connection between performer and audience is so interwoven and so interconnected.
It's exactly also brings out the multimedia of Zoom. Had a video designer running everything through a thing called vMix offsite. Had 3 cameras. We actually coined the term camera ballet, because not only is she a trained dancer, she had to know through 3 cameras where the camera was, what was where she was filming, where her phone was, so she could things up. It became part of the choreography. We also, one reason why Diana had to get in here is we like to see people who were before the people who inspired us, and knowing that she inspired Christina Wong, it was amazing to see that. Definitely. We love to see the people where the dominoes clicked into place.
Yeah, this is another one, used all the tools in her toolkit, but also we say 3 camera. I think it was 2 computers and an iPhone. And and it's once again talking about people using what they have and thriving in this moment. And she's definitely one of those people.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I had them, both of them, Christina and Diana, on What's Next, and you saw their energy, you saw how they work together. And all these artists, I mean, I don't know them all, but the way you've been describing them, this freedom of playing, of taking the chance, of pushing it, taking a risk, that a lot of people did, but not everyone. And there's still some people that I think are hesitant, but boy, these folks, when they put it out there was some great work. I love the video. I saw clips. I did love the video work incorporated with her. She's a wonderful performer. So yeah, that was I'm glad you put that on the list. I think she's wonderful. All right, I think this is the last one of your set list, and maybe we'll pry a few others out of you. Love and Other Lures, Dr. Dower, and Peach. And
Dr. Doer.
Dr. Doer,
Not
I say
your-
It's
Dower.
not spelled wrong. It's just pronounced Dr. Doer.
Dower,
Because
okay, Doer,
he's supposed
gotcha.
to be a vain type who decides to spell his name Dower but say it Doer. We love them.
I think we're at fangirl status
Oh
now.
my gosh, this is our friends Toby and Rachel. They're excellent performers. They were cabaret performers in the before time, and then they started getting into video right before the pandemic happened. They actually filmed a web series, which is still on their website.
It's
Definitely
won a lot of film festivals.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's funny, it's witty. They're so smart. They go back into commedia dell'arte, kind of clowning and stuff like that. Sorry, our phone decided to ring.
Oh, no. Good.
But they do clowning, and they are a couple who does. She's supposed to be the naive, kind of funny type. He's supposed to be the know-it-all who knows nothing.
Right.
And they play off each other really well. And they're actually doing a Christmas special that's coming out soon, and we'll have that link in the list of links. And they're really great performers.
Yeah, it was wonderful for me because they tied clowning with music and with just this kind of sci-fi fantasy. Dr. George styles himself as an ethno-crypto-zoomusicologist.
Yep.
And the fact that I can say that knows exactly how big of a fan I am. They have a YouTube channel, and I'm on there all the time waiting for them to drop new stuff. This show just showed us how crazy it can be, that you can control and create this fantastical vibe in your home. Like, the idea is they brought a camera out of the box and the audience came in the box.
We were mailed to them.
They had this haunting music, like you can't go outside. And they also had a man, like a puka, the house spirit in the walls, who would turn the camera and do stuff like that. And just hearing the craziness where they took their already like cabaret or like their music hall show and then turned it to film into this. Oh, it's crazy. And all their music is lovely. They have an album out now.
So yeah, they definitely did a lot that required a bit more film and editing than most, but it's also proof that like there is this thin line between the two, where we are dealing in a combo of theater and film into something completely new.
You know, with that, and we're near the end, but I did.
We're having a bit of a mic problem. We are so sorry. I don't know if we would have to leave and come back, or
if you want to go ahead and leave and come back, and I'll take it from here. Just because it
hold
does
on
sound
1 second.
like
I'm so sorry. Technical difficulty.
Go ahead and do that. All right. So while they're going through that, the fun of online. They were Ricky and Dana, the Young-Howze Theater Journal. Ricky and Dana have just, and I'm going to say all these wonderful things, they're not even here, have been so important to getting the message out there about streaming, what's good, what's not good, or rather what is still being worked on. And we're very excited to be having him here. I've got your logo on. I was just singing praises. Can you hear me now?
Yep. We're perfect. Sorry about that, everyone. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. I think I love this list. I love how you're celebrating all the different artists and the ones taking challenges and working it. I know I mentioned that you guys are working on a book and journal. And the link that we have in the comments, that goes to all the shows you've seen?
No, that goes to our list of it expands on this list of the ones that are just the spirit of the year.
I mean, like, we mentioned quite a few of the shows, but we also have every review we have on our blog. But no, it's just sort of a sample size of everything we've seen. That way, just so people can get a taste. If you want to read all 100 and so reviews, I think we're at 120 reviews. Yeah.
Wow.
We have lost our minds, but you can read them all on our blog. We have a Tumblr, so it's like just keep scrolling and reading. You'll get to the bottom eventually. I actually forgot to mention a show that is happening right now called it's iPhone Macbeth. And a friend of ours, Christopher Carter Sanderson of Gorilla Rep, um, created a show having everybody record themselves on their phones. And so it's Macbeth, but everyone's doing like a selfie cam really close up. And our friend Leggero is in it, and he stars as Macbeth. And we want to talk about him because of actors who are just picking up the call from from directors who are like, we're going to do something different. And he immediately was like, okay, I'm in. And so he's just holding his cell phone and doing these Shakespearean monologues, and you're with it. You're taking it so seriously, and you are part of the show. And so we wanted to mention them as well. But yes, this is just a sample size list. We have all our shows, and one of the things we're going to do when we do our award show is we're going to announce the winners before we have the actual award show, and we'll describe like what categories they fit into. And there's fun categories, like one we call the team behind the solo performance, which we're calling the Chewie Award for Chewbacca, because Han Solo, Chewie.
Great pairs. You need that. Absolutely.
And then talking about which fringe festivals were the ones that really stuck with us, and just things that deserve recognition for trying. I mean, we definitely feel that if you tried to do something this year, you deserve a medal, and we sincerely say that. And if you're here listening to the show and you're like, wait, you've never reviewed anything of ours, send it to us. We are community led. We go where people tell us there's something happening, and usually we have our ear pretty close to the ground, but you can't hear it all. And so we always rely on people to say, hey, there is this thing, I know this guy who's doing something, and we try to reach out to them. And our goal more than anything is to help people do what they love. And as long as we're doing that, we're happy. And that's exactly what the book's about. It's about our journey helping people, and our journey helping people along with how beautiful this year has been, the beauty in this terrible year. And so like this year is horrific, but the beauty of this is this digital theater moment and what we've all been able to create.
Well, I love what you guys have, what you've been doing with all this. For companies who are watching out there, is the best website to reach you is that rickyyoung.house.tumblr.com that's up there now?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You can also email us at rnd, like our name, the letter N, Young-Howze@gmail.com. And you can reach us there anytime. I'm an insomniac, so like don't be afraid to email me at 1:00 in the morning. Just don't be surprised if you get an answer. Because we're there, and we would love to hear more. We love to hear what you're doing. And we always say, if we can't make it to your show, we will shout it out. We will shout it on our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook. We will try to get you an audience, because this is awesome. This is important, and we want to help as many artists as we can.
And we plan to do digital theater for the next 100 years.
As long as people are creating, we will be there.
I love the support and love. And for those who do want to be seen by you and be nominated for an award, that has to be done by January 15th. Is that
January 16th? We gave them till the Saturday, because we're like,
so wonderful. For those of you out there then who have a show, here's an email address up on the screen. For those of you who have been wondering, what should I see? There is so much work out there. Take a look at that link here that gives more information about all these shows, and keep up with R&D. These two are really, they're meeting everyone, they're networking everyone. They're so important to the fabric of all this in terms of the artist to artist, artist to audience, all those relationships that we're just working out. I enjoy my conversations with them. I just thought it was perfect to have you as our season finale, because you've seen so much, and you really do represent this side of of we've got to do this. We've got to push this community. We've got to support it. We're enjoying this, the creative process of it, and you guys have been key with that. So thank you. Thank you both for all of your work with all of this.
We appreciate that so much. That's what we do, and we love
what
it.
you do.
And we appreciate being your season finale. We're so proud of this show and how much you've done and how much community you've built.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to see what happens next.
Next year, I can't wait. We got a bunch of festivals. A lot of them are being waiting on. So I think our first episode of the issue will have a lot to talk about with everything going on. So everyone out there, audience, thanks for checking in. This is our 27th episode, and a great way of wrapping it up. Rick and Dana, you were perfect final guests. So thank you. I want to give a special thank out to Miles Berman. You saw him earlier, who's just been here every step of the way and is also an incredible director and inventor on this new format as well. So a little shout out to Miles. To all of the guests this year, thank you. We'll be having quite a few of you back to kind of recap to see how has it been for the last 6 months. A lot has changed. So again, I want to thank everyone. Happy holidays. Miles, if you can go ahead and bring me out. Take care, everyone.